Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video tutorial. This would be another unorthodox opening that we'll be discussing into this board. It is similar to last week's video, which uses the rank chariot with Lian cannon variation. Now, I think I made a mistake with the titles. I just saw them today, and the correct title should be rank chariot with Lian cannons for the past two videos. Only this video that we're doing today will be the early advisor with Lian cannon for black. So without further ado, let us begin. Central cannon again. Black chooses to develop the red horse to protect the central pawn, and instead of playing the rank chariot in this board, black would play p7+1, which is still often seen. However, the development of black's three major pieces over here will become a major issue. And sometimes this will be a precursor to the Mandarin duck cannons or the other unorthodox openings that were discussed in this video series a bit of time ago. So red would take the opportunity to play 1 equals to 2 to threaten the cannon. Now, in this unorthodox counter, black would choose to solidify his central file with a4+5. Now, this is rather unusual, consolidating the defense before the enemy chariot or cannon or horse had specifically shown where they were going to attack, and something is going on. And red continues with the developing both horses as a proper horse. Now, because black had used up two moves, the advisor and the pawn, as part of his first three moves, the other 5 major pieces would now fall far behind in development, and so the utmost priority for red at this point in time would be to develop his major pieces as fast as possible. Other than this move, red could also consider c8 equals to 6, p7+1, etc. However, the authors suggest and believe that h8+7 would be much better for this when countering the early advisor with Lian cannon. And for the fourth move, finally the Lian cannon appears. Now, again, black is prepared to attack the horse in this file. Black would not have to worry about r2+8 because black would now be able to play c2-1 to dislodge the red chariot. Now, this is a little bit unusual for black because after pushing the pawn, the horse was not developed, and instead the cannon was developed as a Lian cannon. And there's an element of deception in this move. Now, if red did not understand the situation or the implications, black could steal a win very easily. Now, at this point in time, this would be the position of discussion, and black this would be the position of discussion, and there were 3 major variations that were discussed in the book. The first would be r2+4, where red would adopt a conservative approach and patrol the riverbank. The other would be p5+1, whereby red would try to continue with an attack on the central file. Now, of course, one major reason would be that now red would be prepared to develop the horse from the central, and they wouldn't have to worry about the pawn and the cannon over here. And the third would be to play p7+1, tempting black to push the pawn across the river and even sacrificing material if need be. So let us begin our discussion with the first variation, r2+4. Now, this is very conservative, as mentioned earlier, because red would be adopting a very cautious approach to the game. And because of this lack of aggressiveness, black would be allowed to develop his material as need be, and could adjust his formation accordingly, and would probably be able to achieve a desirable situation. Now, one of the major characteristics of the Lian cannons would be that black would be prepared to attack the pawn in this manner, thus attacking the elephant and allowing the horse to be developed as a proper horse slightly later on. And because of this move, the efficiency of Red's R2+4 will now be greatly debated, because it did not do much and will not do much later on, since the cannon had already crossed the river and there was no chance of Red pushing a pawn to trade pawns, etc. And Red, of course, would play e3+1 to prevent capture and also prevent the pawn from crossing the river. Now, Black continues with e3+1, preparing to develop his cannon as a kingside chariot, his chariot as a kingside chariot, and also to fortify the central defense. Now, Black cannot be too eager to play h8+7. Now, if Black was tried to jump the gun by playing h8+7, Red would take advantage of the weaknesses in Black's formation and play r2=7 to threaten the horse in this manner, and the Black horse would be under attack and Black would have to deal with this issue. So that is why h8+7 would not be a good idea at this point in time, and Black should play e3+5 first. So if Red tried to play r2+7, r2=7, Black would simply push the pawn forward and gain momentum, since it will be protected by the elephant now. So since Black played e3+5, Red would try to develop his horse, prevent the cannon from further capturing his pawn, etc. And Black would take the time to develop his left horse as a proper horse. 5-9 cannons, and as can be seen, all of a sudden, Black would now be applying a lot of pressure on Red's left flank, and the material will be well developed. Now, at this point in time, this would be similar to the double pawn rank cannons variation in the greenhouse defense, and Black's formation is very versatile and very powerful, and his opening will be deemed a success. In comparison, the space or the movement of Red's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces is worrisome. So Black can be very satisfied with this situation. So the first variation, r2+4, would not seem to be a good idea after all. Now in variation 2, p5+1 was played, as Red would continue to try to attack from the central file. Now, Black must be aggressive at this time and fight fire with fire. He cannot back down at this point in time. So if Black tried to play e3+5 as he did in the previous variation, Red would continue to attack and develop his horse from the central file. So the development of the horses is a crucial issue. He could capture the pawn now, and also the horse would have many options for further development. So Red would have an open position and would command the initiative. So that is why e3+4 would be too slow, and Black must be aggressive with p7+1. So Red will continue with p5+1 and develop his horse, thinking that everything will be okay. However, Black would now play b7+6, threatening to link the pawns up on the riverbank. And instead of playing an elephant, Black will counter with a central cannon of his own. And both colors would lock horns very early in the game. Now, this would lead, suddenly the situation on the board will intensify. It will intensify greatly, and Red, despite having the first move advantage, would have a hard time, and this pawn would become an immediate menace that Red would have to try to deal with. So things would be very hard to control, and Black can be satisfied with this situation. Hence, p5+1, although aggressive, would not seem to be viable or feasible either. So the recommended variation in the book was p7+1, and which, according to the comments in the book, Red showed that he was not mesmerized or fearful of Black's attack on this file. This This move exemplified that he understood the situation very well and knew where the weaknesses in black's formation were and countered very precisely. Now, after p7 plus 1 was played, there were two sub-variations that were discussed. The first was p7 plus 1 and the other was c7 plus 4. So let's see the first sub-variation of p7 plus 1, whereby black tries to gain material. Of course, after playing p7 plus 1, red was prepared to sacrifice material, and he went ahead with h7 plus 6. Black moved or charged his pawn across the river again. The red horse ran to safety. Black finally develops his left flank, and red would make this very interesting move of c8 plus 1 to eradicate the pawn. The pawn cannot advance because the horse will capture it. So this is a very powerful move that increased the initiative, and once the cannon was moved here, he would also apply a lot of pressure on this flank. Black would try to protect the pawn in this manner, but at this point in time, because this was a centroid horse, which was also protecting the elephant, red could advance his chariot across the river and threaten the horse directly. So black could be placed in a dilemma. Black can only play h7 plus 6. It would be a bad idea to play h7 plus 5 because red would trade material willingly, capture the pawn, and black's formation will be very unsteady, and red would have a bigger advantage. h7 plus 6 was played, capturing the pawn, and black will need to consolidate his defense with e3 plus 5. He cannot jump the gun and try to trade horses, or after trading horses, you can see the development of red will develop his horses from this flank, and red, in comparison, both of the black chariots have not moved at all, whereas red's chariot had already commanded rather important lines, and it is very easy to see who would have the advantage in this situation. The horse at the riverbank could also charge across and be a huge threat. So black will need to consolidate his defense and allow for development of his chariot, probably as a kingside chariot. Knight goes to 8, c2 goes to 1, and c3 and c3 equals to 4. Now at this point in time, red has quite a significant advantage because the development of the red pieces or the efficiency of the moves is extremely high. The black horse, which has crossed the river, cannot be a threat because it cannot advance or be captured by the chariot. Neither can it be moved here, which is guarded by the cannon. So red would have the advantage from the in hand. Again, the development of the black chariots would be an issue. If the kingside chariot, red could link the horses up, and again, there will not be many good spaces for the chariot to be developed further. So, this would be p7 plus 1. If black tried the other subvariation of c7 plus 4, red would charge his horse to the riverbank, preparing to capture the central pawn. Black would, of course, consolidate his defense for something similar to the screenhouse defense situation. However, because the cannon had crossed the river and the pawn was already pushed, red would counter with c8 equals to 7 and to threaten the black horse in retaliation and give black a taste of his own medicine. e7 plus 5 was played to prevent the pawn from pushing across the river. But red would still push the pawn across the river nevertheless. Now, this would force the elephant to the riverbank and thus weakening and further slowing down the development of black's pieces. Knight equals to 8, r1 equals to 2, and as can be seen, black will now mercilessly try to attack the black horse. e3 plus 5 is played so that if h7, black could move his horse away and still have a decent defense. And red does not forget to defend, and he chooses to move the elephant to the edge file in anticipation of black playing r9 goes to 8. Now this is a move that was very powerful because it adopted a wait and see approach, and red will now be able to counter black's moves very precisely, no matter what black would do. Now h8 plus 7 would be too brash because black would be prepared to sacrifice the horse. Let's say if threatening the chariot, and thus the chariot would be lost because it would not have any place to move, and black would also have the option of capturing the elephant to mount an attack. So black cannot capture the chariot. So black will try to offer a trade of material, which red will gladly accept. And as can be seen, red would now play r1 plus r2 plus 1 to move his chariot to third rank, where he will be prepared to traverse to the other flank to attack. And as can be seen, this would be black's biggest weakness on the board. So black would be in all sorts of trouble, and red would have a significant advantage. The 3 pieces preparing to storm this flank would be more than what red can. Would be more than what black can handle at this point in time. So a quick review. We'll do it as black. Central cannon, right house, and pawn, early advisor, Lian cannon. As can be seen, this is slightly awkward looking. The 3 variations. First variation was r2 plus 4, and black could play c7 plus 4 and develop his material at will, achieving a very considerable, very nice position. Now, if red pushed the horse to the riverbank, black could apply a cannon fork or cannon skewer in this sense to pin the chariot. For example, he will do this, and this would be the monkey pulling horse cannon pin, and red will be in all sorts of trouble. Sorry, in variation 2, red attempts to attack from the central file, but again black would have nothing to be worried about by pushing the pawn forward, and black would have gained a pawn across the river, and black will now counter with the central cannon and still pin the black horse to the center of the file, and he could develop his other material freely at will. This would be a very intense situation, but black can be very satisfying. The recommended move for red would be to play p7 plus 1, and there are 2 sub-variations. In the first sub-variation, black would try to attack as planned or predetermined. A very good move with c8 equals to 3, and again the black horse is forced to a very undesirable position. Red will capture the pawn, and at this point in time the development of black's material is much better than black's. In the second sub-variation, c7 plus 4, and red understood the situation very well and chose to attack the horse at this file, sacrificing the pawn to weaken red-black's formation. And after trading material, we can see that red would now be prepared to traverse his chariot across the board to gain some advantage. So I hope you've enjoyed this short video. I occasionally encounter this opening, and to be frank, I never knew that there was material to discuss this opening, and I was quite frankly surprised. Frankly, I was quite surprised at the tricks that Black could have. It can be fun, and I might consider playing it occasionally against the central canon. So if you like the work that I've been doing, please do subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up for the video. Thank you.